Hi there. It's so good to see you guys. I'm just gonna give this a moment to get started live streaming. Um, okay, hello, hello, hello. We are live. I am really happy to and also honored to bring a message through today. So every Thursday, I run a live channeled circle called Cosmic Akashic Circles. And so subscribers come and are able to ask questions and receive an attunement, an activation, and a lesson. And I'd love to invite you, by the way, go to my website and sign up for that if that entices you, intrigues you. But today was an especially profound message that I was not expecting, but that was beautiful, about Juneteenth. And so that is such a profound profound thing that happened in our history, in our society, and in our culture when the emancipation of slaves was set into writing. So what the guides and Metatron included, but there was also the whole council on harmonization available to us. They were all part of it. And they were saying that they were inviting us to look at what happened, the sequencing of events that happened back in 1865, but that's when the 13th Amendment was put into place. But if you can imagine, in the hearts and minds of the leadership at the time, and also a lot of citizens, there must have been like a current of reverberating transformation going on leading up to that. Because as we know, it takes a lot to get anything in place as a bill, or well, it used to, I should say, but it takes a lot for it to become concretized. We're going to leave the current situation out for right now. Things are happening quickly and it's all evolving. So what the guides wanted to remind us about and share was about the power of overturning within ourselves the subconscious paradigms and the subconscious belief systems. So if you can imagine what they were saying, imagine what was happening back in 1863, 1864, 1865, and probably decades before that, because certainly not every person, hardly at all on the planet, was a proponent of what was going on, which was enslavement. That's for sure. But there were people who were, and obviously experienced that on all sides. But what was going on at the time of the Liberation Act that happened, that we're celebrating today on Juneteenth 2025, is the shift. It's equivalent in many, many, many ways to the actual shift that we are experiencing in our consciousness rising, in our conscious evolution and growth here on this planet. It is an inner emancipation that's happening, an inner freedom. Now it's like it's an inner proclamation to the self, to acknowledge that the self is whole, and the self is divine, and the self is a soul, and the self is all these things, that all these components that are so multi-universal, multivariant, and that we're so much more than we thought before. And that shift is taking a hold very, very powerfully amongst the collective, especially amongst you, who, if you're listening to this, because you're in tune with this transformation. And so what they were showing was that at the time that slavery, enslavement of other humans was being deconstructed, what was going on, obviously, is that people were rising within themselves and deconstructing the paradigm in themselves first, and saying, wait a minute, like, even if they were participants at all, they had to acknowledge and face themselves and face the situation and say, wait a minute, this is not just, this is not right, this is not appropriate It's not who I am and who we are as a people. And if you can imagine how many hearts and minds really did have to experience that shift in order for that to make itself into the movement, to make itself into an actual like civil rights statement by being written up as an amendment that started off with the breakdown of the subconscious, where many people were involved in slavery, and admittedly many were blinded by, whatever it was, arrogance, self-hatred, so many negative beliefs that they either participated in it willingly, condoned it, were proponents, or simply stood by and watched and did nothing. So the same thing is going on these days. And the thing is, we have free will choice. And when we know how free we really are, we can either make or break ourselves by like looking at the politics or the wars at play or what's going on in the external world and saying, hey, wait a minute, that's not me. That's not a reflection of my heaven on earth. That's not who I am, who and how I want to be, and what I'm co-creating. And once humans start to see things like that and live in that energy, we start to break down the old, unknown subconscious constructs, which, we could call the matrix, we could call trauma, we could call so many things. It's informed by so many things. And as someone who has digested my share of release of trauma and being like formerly informed by trauma, I'm here to say, no matter what, no matter how difficult, no matter how horrific a situation, we do have freedom. We do have freedom of choice. And the guides are always, always, always reminding me and reminding us of that, even though it seems like we don't. But back, when this Emancipation Proclamation took place in 1865, enough of the collective had shifted into, wait a minute, we all deserve to be free, no matter what. Imagine what it took, but imagine and feel how that shift rippled. And of course, it took many years. And of course, even there are things that are still being worked out today, 100 and however many years later. However, by and large, that kind of freedom on the surface level is instated. And now we're up leveling it into the, like, what they were showing is just to kind of use this as a springboard to understand what can go on within yourself when you decide, wait a minute, that's not for me, this is for me, that's not for me, this is for me, and start making choices for your life, for yourself, from that place. And this is by no means any statement about politics or the right or wrong of slavery. And I honor so much all of our ancestors, all of the people today who experience it, all of those whose shoulders we stand on in liberty and justice for all, who have made freedom our birthright, because it is, even if countries deem it not, or what have you. I don't mean to say anything about how that wasn't hard or anything like that. I simply mean to share that the perseverance of the souls who had the courage to take the act of putting consciousness onto paper after delving into it within themselves and deciding this was an injustice and making it a freedom act for slaves, and thus for all, because we're all united in the collective. That wave of consciousness, let's say freedom of choice consciousness, is what the angels and the guides are so keen to have us understand is our right, and also akin to the process that we're going through now to free ourselves from different kinds of beliefs, but that enslave the individual. It's like a different kind of slavery that we have felt. It's slavery of the mind games and the belief systems and the trauma and all of that. And so this topic is so vast, but I wanted to just share what the essence of this was in terms of a declaration that perhaps you take forward with you on this day, whenever you hear this, and say and know for yourself that there's a change afoot, and it's very vast and big, and it's akin to what our ancestors, our predecessors have done time and time and time again. It's simply, it's our universal new version of it. And it's just, to me, a way that helps understand in very tangible terms the reflection of what can happen when we decide, when we make a choice and literally put it on paper, and the ripple effect. So I just thought that was so important to share that I wanted to repeat it through this vehicle today. And what I will say too is what followed in the live group today was a very beautiful attunement to this freedom energy that Metatron gave to everyone with Metatron's cube and an invocation and all of this. And so in all of those calls, there's an energy shifting, guided, meditative adjustment, activation, attunement. And so I'll just offer, if that calls to you, if you subscribe to those Thursdays and want to start joining us, I would love to see you there. You can do so on my website at SuzanneAlexandria.com, and you would have access to all the recordings for this year as well, and that recording would be yours too. So reach out to me or subscribe if this calls, or share. I'd love to see comments as well. And I just wish all of us the freedom that we all are bringing, that we all know is here for us, and the freedom that we deserve in our inner scape. Because when we free ourselves internally, it starts to reflect itself out in the world, and that's the parallel that they so beautifully showed. So thank you for your vibrance, your light, and your being part of this new constitutional freedom that we're enacting for ourselves, for the collective, for humanity, because it's pretty big. I think all of us are really gathering that and knowing that, and thank you for participating in it. And I wish you a blessed Juneteenth and a blessed rest of your week, and I'll see you on the next video.